Is Donald Trump truly evil? In recent memory, I cannot think of a more polarizing president than that of President Trump. And yet he has captured the hearts of so many Americans. And as an outsider, I find it difficult to see why. Perhaps it is the information that I am fed through the algorithms and the media, but the more I learn about Donald Trump, the more I hear him speak, the more I hear about his policies and actions, the more convinced that I am that he is a narcissist at best and an evil criminal at worst. But am I justified in thinking so? Or am I the one who is brainwashed? Surely, given that there have been so many supporters, enough for him to get elected twice, surely there must be something that the general American populace and MAGA can find to be so redeemable and so alluring that they are willing to look past what I see to be reprehensible actions. But what is it? Is it truly a cult? Or am I the one in a cult? Have I been brainwashed? Or them? Are MAGA all idiots? Or am I the fool who's being swept up by the media? In this video, I will do my best to answer these questions and try my best to give a totally unbiased take. Of course, that is difficult given my existing bias, but for the purpose of this video, I will do my utmost to approach this as a totally clean slate. Because I truly want to know, is Donald Trump truly evil? So to really get into this, we have to look at what's been happening on the ground since Trump took the oath for the second time in January 25. It's one thing to call someone evil based on a vibe or a tweet, but it's another to look at the actual machinery of power he's been cranking. If we're being real, the evil label usually comes from people looking at his policies on immigration and civil rights. Since 2025, the administration has kicked off what they call Operation Metro Surge and massive ICE raids that have been described by critics as a humanitarian nightmare. We're talking about the removal of due process for many detainees, and even reports of using military lawyers as temporary immigration judges to bypass the backlogged civil courts. For some, this is a systematic dismantling of human rights. But is that evil, or just a really aggressive interpretation of the law? Critics on the left point to things like Executive Order 14168, which restricted gender-affirming care and stripped protections for LGBT+ individuals, as evidence of a politics of force. There's a sense that the current administration isn't just trying to govern, they're trying to dominate. When you look at the rhetoric coming out of the White House in early 2026, it's all about might makes right. Stephen Miller has publicly defended imperial-style aggression, basically saying international law is a myth, and that big countries should just do what they want. For anyone who believes in a world order based on cooperation and empathy, that kind of alpha posturing feels like the literal definition of a moral vacuum. Then there's the legal sides of things. Since 2025, the administration has been in a constant cage match with the courts. At least 225 judges have ruled in over 700 cases against various administration policies, from the freezing of foreign aid to the fork directive that pushed federal employees to resign. When a leader spends more time trying to figure out how to bypass the law than to follow it, the evil tag starts to stick for a lot of people. It looks like a slow motion coup against the very idea of a nation of laws. If you're a person who values the stability of institutions, watching someone systematically dismantle the Department of Education or the National Endowment for the Humanities feels like a direct attack on the future of the country. But wait, let's flip the script. If he's so evil, why did he get 40% of the country to say, yes please, more of that? To understand the MAGA allure, you have to stop looking at Trump as a politician and start looking at him as a status-based social movement. For millions of Americans, the old way of doing things, the technocrats, the polite politicians, the Davos set, has left them behind. For MAGA, this is about honor. It's about people who feel like their lifestyle, their values, and their very existence have been mocked by the elites for decades. To them, Trump isn't a narcissist. He is the only guy willing to punch back at the people who hate them. And let's be fair, it's not all just vibes and grievance. Some of the stuff he's done in 2025 and 2026 actually looks pretty good on paper for a regular person. For example, he signed an executive order to cap family co-payments for childcare at 7% of household income. He's also been going after large institutional investors, the big corporate landlords, to stop them from buying up all the single-family homes. If you're a parent struggling to pay rent or find daycare, you might not care if the guy is a narcissist or if he's mean or truth social. You care that he's actually doing something about your bank account. To his supporters, the evil narrative is just a weapon used by the same people who sent their jobs overseas and made their cities unaffiliated. Now here's where the nuance gets really messy. As of early 2026, the honeymoon period of the second term is definitely over. Why? Because the economy is starting to bite back. Trump's madman theory of foreign policy, throwing huge tariffs at countries like South Korea and India to force them into better deals, has had very uneven results. While it makes for great headlines, the reality is that those tariffs are driving up costs for everyday Americans. In a January 2026 poll, only about 2 in 10 Americans said he's done more to help the cost of living, while 6 in 10 said he's actually hurt it. This is the big divide. If you're an American first believer, you see these tariffs as a necessary short-term pain to win a long-term economic war. You think, yeah, my groceries are more expensive now, but eventually, we're going to bring the factories back. But if you're a skeptic, you see this as a chaotic, uncalculated disaster that is burning down the global economy just to satisfy one man's ego. The evil versus savior debate basically boils down to whether you think he has a master plan or if he's just some guy with a hammer who thinks every problem is a nail. So back to the big question, is he evil? The psychological perspective, which a lot of experts have debated, is that he fits the profile of malignant narcissism. This isn't necessarily evil in the theological sense, but in a political leader, it means their entire worldview is filtered through their own ego. If something makes him look strong, it's good. If something makes him look weak, it's bad or fake news. This explains why he can be both a savior when he's helping the middle class fight corporate landlords, and a villain when he's dismantling democratic norms to stay in power. The evil part comes in when that ego requires the suffering of others to feel powerful, like the family separations or the aggressive rhetoric against marginalized groups. But to his followers, this is strength. They see a world governed by force, and they want the biggest force on their side. Since we're looking at this from a Canadian perspective, here's what I would be watching out for. Whether Trump is evil is a philosophical debate, but his actions have very real, very expensive consequences for us north of the border. 1. The tariff wall. Trump's 25% tariff on South Korea is just the beginning. He has already signaled that he wants reciprocal tariffs for any country with a trade surplus with the US. Canada is high on that list. If those tariffs hit our lumber, steel, or cars, our cost of living will skyrocket even faster. 2. The America First energy drain. By approving new pipelines and pushing for zero-based regulatory budgeting to unleash US energy, he's trying to make the US the global energy king. This could drive down global oil prices, which is good for our gas tank, but it could also gut the Canadian energy sector's competitive edge. 3. Sovereignty risks. Watch the rhetoric about Greenland and Venezuela. In 2025/2026, the Trump administration has become much more comfortable with the idea of territorial expansion or intervention in the name of national interest. For a neighbor like Canada, that means we have to play a very delicate game to stay on his good side without losing our own autonomy. So, is he evil? If evil is the absence of empathy and the pursuit of power at any cost, then his critics have a mountain of evidence from 2025 and 2026 to point to. But if good is defined as protecting your own people and fighting an entrenched elite, his supporters have their own mountain of evidence. Perhaps the most terrifying and honest answer is that he is exactly what a polarized, hurting world created. A leader who mirrors our own divisions back at us.